Hey there, thank you for joining us today for our destination training brought to you by Experience Africa in partnership with the Travel Up Collection. Before we kickstart, are you a buyer looking to diversify and enrich your travel portfolios with Africa's high quality and sustainable travel options? Then look no further as I present to you Experience Africa. This event is a unique platform that showcases the finest African product portfolios and ensures seamless connectivity between key European buyers and carefully selected high-quality exhibitors. This involves pre-scheduled appointments, networking events, and the inaugural ARTA Awards. You're sure to leave with valuable connections and insight into the African tourism market. Are you still thinking why you should attend as a buyer? Well, as a leading B2B event for African tourism suppliers, UK and European buyers, it's your prime opportunity to expand your African products and also meet quality ARTA-vetted exhibitors from across the African continent, showcasing top products and services. This year, we have 192 exhibiting companies and partners compared to 155 from last year. And this is very much indicative of how much we've grown in the last 1 year. And rest assured, it won't end there. So if this sounds like something you're interested in, please visit our website at www.experienceafrica.travel or send an email to info@experienceafrica.travel. Now to the session of today.
Thank you, and welcome to Zimbabwe, this beautiful little country located in the heart of Southern Africa. We are a landlocked country. The languages are predominantly English, with two main tribal languages being the Ndebele and Shona, but we have 16 official languages in total. Our population is an estimated 14.8 million, and our religion is predominantly Christian. The currency in Zimbabwe is the Zimbabwe ZiG, but in the tourist areas, USD is the most used currency, the United States dollar, but multi-currency is acceptable. Our time zone is GMT +2, and Zimbabwe has 5 UNESCO World Heritage Sites and 2 UNESCO Biosphere Reserves, with 11 national parks across the country. So quite a diverse landscape in terms of what our national parks have to offer. Unique selling points. Gosh, Zimbabwe is made up of a rich tapestry of really unique landscapes. So you can go to 3 different destinations within the country and have a completely different experience. We do have one of the friendliest and most welcoming populations in Africa, and I think the people of Zimbabwe are definitely one of our strongest selling points. We have a very strong conservation and wildlife biodiversity management ethos in our country across the landscape, with a very rich cultural heritage and history and outstanding artisanal talent. What Zimbabwe is most renowned for from a traveler perspective is producing some of the most experienced, knowledgeable, and passionate professional guides in the world. And I think our guiding standards are extremely high in terms of that knowledge share and passion that comes through in every safari that travelers partake in here. We are also just one of 4 countries in which an estimated 98% of the world's black rhino population can be found. And Zimbabwe has the 2nd largest stronghold of African elephant alongside our neighbors, Botswana, who hold the most. In terms of the type of travelers that come to Zimbabwe, we have something for everyone. So a lot of our destinations cater to all forms of budget. And we cater overall as a country to FITs, group series, multi-generational families, new and well-traversed safari lovers, photographers, volunteers, adventure seekers, self-drives, and twitchers, your big birding enthusiasts. So we really do cater to all types of travelers. From an access perspective, Zimbabwe has, for the past 4 years, been embarking on a very extensive air services development program, which is ongoing. This has been spearheaded by the Airports Company of Zimbabwe. We've had a number of new airlines start flying into the country post-COVID, and you can see a list of the airlines there. Lots of new airlines flying into Victoria Falls, really increasing those connections between Cape Town, Kruger, and Namibia. And we have Sem Air and Fly Safari Air between Joburg and Vic Falls, really offering that kind of low-cost option to get into the destination. What is quite exciting is our immigration in Zimbabwe has been working really hard on improvements on the entry process, particularly in and around Victoria Falls. And there are a number of different charter companies which are flying between the remote in-country destinations. So the likes of Mac Air, Safari Logistics, Wilderness Air, Falcon Air, all offering quite competitive rates to those more remote destinations within Zimbabwe. When to travel? We really are an all year round destination. There are particular areas that don't open at certain times of the year. But from a seasonal perspective, our dry season runs from about April to December, and our green season, as it is known, runs from December to March, when that rain comes through and really livens up the bush. Our temperatures over those periods, particularly in September and October, the peak of the dry, you're looking at highs between 30 and 42 degrees Celsius, so very, very hot during the day. And then in our kind of winter months, June, July, beginning of August, you're looking at low temperatures, particularly in the early mornings and late evenings, of 5 degrees to 23 degrees Celsius. So a lot warmer during the day, but colder in the early mornings and evenings. From a wildlife viewing perspective, the dry season is when you would anticipate your guests seeing a larger quantity of wildlife, particularly around the water points in each of the national parks. However, the green season months here in Zimbabwe really bring some special and unique wildlife sightings in certain areas. So it's not a season to be discounted. We've had exceptional sightings in Zambezi National Park and Wangi National Park during the green season months. For example, when it's the calving season, you have a lot of young wildlife. And with that comes the increase of predators following those herbivore species. The key regions across Zimbabwe, as I mentioned, very diverse. This kind of just shows you the highlight of each of those regions, and I'm going to touch on each of them very briefly as we progress through the presentation. So Victoria Falls and the Zambezi River is kind of our hub of access to Zimbabwe, but also a hub of access to the greater Kavango-Zambezi Transfrontier Conservation Area, which combines access into Botswana, Zambia, Namibia, and Angola, the partner countries of the CASA. Vic Falls itself is an adrenaline and adventure hotspot, but it has so much more in terms of what it has to offer. It's really a plethora of all the experiences that you would be looking for in Africa, from wildlife, gastronomy, culture, wellness, history, and rest and relaxation, really. And of course, the center pivot for all the experiences is around our UNESCO World Heritage Site, the beautiful Victoria Falls, which we share with our neighbor Zambia. Moving across into Wangi National Park, this is our largest national park in Zimbabwe at around 14,650 square kilometers. They have in Wangi an estimated 108 different wildlife species and over 400 birdlife species. So it really is a hub for wildlife and birdlife from a biodiversity perspective. The park itself is supported by a number of boreholes, so artificial boreholes, which are pumped both through diesel and through solar-powered mechanisms. And really during the dry season, it is these boreholes that retain the wildlife in this area. We have two different sides to Wangi National Park. The north, which is quite a different landscape to the south. The south is predominantly a landscape of beautiful, different indigenous woodlands and open floodplains and flays, whereas the north is a lot more of your rugged, mountainous, hilly outcrops with these beautiful natural spring lines and dry riverbeds. But overall, Wangi is a great destination for walking safaris. It is one of the last great elephant sanctuaries and a fantastic national park for predator sightings. Moving across to Matopo Hills National Park, this is the highest concentration of rock art in Southern Africa. It really is a geographical, cultural, historical, and spiritual landmark for Zimbabwe. And so it offers a very unique experience for travelers looking to combine this in their itineraries. It is considered a sanctuary for both black and white rhino, but it really is dominated by these beautiful boulders that are called like whaleback dwellers, and offers a really deep insight into the cultural history of Zimbabwe. Moving across to Gonorrhoean National Park, Gonarozo literally means the place of elephants. It is the second largest national park in Zimbabwe, and its iconic feature is really the Chilocho Cliffs, which you can see in this image here. Fantastic geographical formation of that sandstone cliff. But what makes Gonarozo really special is its unique conservation story. So there has been a partnership ongoing between Zimbabwe National Parks and Frankfurt Zoological Society, with a lot of community-based initiatives which are ongoing, focused on education with the communities in the surrounding areas, human-wildlife conflict, and women empowerment. They have also reintroduced rhino into Gonarozo National Park, and through the various anti-poaching efforts and research efforts, they are starting to see a rise in the predator numbers in this national park, which is really exciting. Moving across to Mana Pools, another UNESCO World Heritage Site, but also a Ramsar wetland and a biosphere reserve. This national park is really unique in terms of the Zimbabwe landscape. It has a unique ethereal light. So you can be walking through the kind of open floodplain of Mana Pools, where they've got these beautiful forests, and they have a really unique blue hue light that filters through those trees, almost like you're walking into a church with those stained windows. So it really is a photographer's paradise. Fantastic walking, fantastic canoeing, so you get both that kind of land-based and river-based experience. And it is the place where we have very unique behavior from the elephants, where they lean up on the back hind legs to reach the highest branches of those indigenous trees along the floodplain. So really, really very special. Mana Pools also has a similar offering to Wangi in that it has two different areas. It's got the riverside experience, where you have those beautiful views of the Zambezi escarpment on the Zambian side as the backdrop to the river setting and the floodplain. And then you've got the inland experience, which is around the Chitaki Springs and dry riverbed area, where you have a lot of wildlife, particularly in the dry season, really honing in on these water points and giving quite a fantastic wildlife experience. Moving across to Kariba and Matusadana National Park, another very exciting conservation success story on the rise. In 2019, African Parks and Zimbabwe National Park signed a 20-year agreement to focus on restoration, development, and management of the Matusadana shoreline and the national park. They have been conducting extensive wildlife relocations, research, anti-poaching, and already we are seeing a bounce back in terms of the numbers in Matusadana. They have also been putting in a lot of extensive road networks and investing in a lot of self-catering opportunities. So this makes for a really great self-drive destination. But it is also, unbeknownst to a lot of people, a fantastic birding site. So when you walk into the Matusadana National Park, they've got these beautiful spring lines at the back away from the kind of lakefront. And there's an estimated 240 different bird species in this area. So really phenomenal for both wildlife and bird life. Moving across the Eastern Highlands, and I apologize, I am rushing, I'm conscious of time. But the Eastern Highlands are very special in terms of what they have to offer as a destination. And I think particularly for your more well-versed travelers, this showcases how Zimbabwe is not just a one-time safari destination, it's multiple visits, simply because this area is so unique to the rest of Zimbabwe. It is kind of epitomized by a 300-kilometer stretch of a mountainous range, which verges between Nyanga, Vumba, and Chimanimani. And within that, you have these beautiful open valleys, these mountainous stretches, and fantastic waterfalls. So it is host to Mutarazi waterfall, which is considered the second longest waterfall in Africa. But the destination itself has so much to offer in terms of the experience. Fantastic hiking and mountain trails, a hotspot for birding. So they have an estimated 450 different bird species here, including 23 Afrotropical highland biome birds. So really unique for those who are big twitchers. They have the sky walk, whitewater rafting, agro-tourism offerings where you can do that farm to table kind of concept, historic site visits. It really is a hidden gem that a lot of people don't consider incorporating into their itineraries. Moving across to Chizarira National Park, gosh, this park is a complete hidden gem. And ironically, the name Chizarira talks about the barrier, the Great Barrier. It is home to the hidden gorges, remote, rugged, and really one of the least visited national parks in Zimbabwe. It is the third largest, kind of epitomized by those jagged gorges and ravines with natural spring lines and dry riverbeds in between. So again, a fantastic area for walking safaris. It's not where you're going to be looking to check off your big five, but this is really for those who are big on exploratory kind of safaris. And what is quite exciting is over the last few years, National Park Rescue have been working with Zimbabwe National Parks and Wildlife to do a lot of restoration and rehabilitation of Chizarira National Park. They've been doing a lot of road rehab, anti-poaching activities and research, and we're really starting to see the numbers of wildlife bouncing back in this area as well. So lots of positive, exciting stories out of Zimbabwe. And then finally, but certainly not least, is Great Zimbabwe, our kind of medieval city here in Zimbabwe. It's steeped in history. It really is the largest existing structure from ancient sub-Saharan Africa. So you can really feel that spiritual connection when you visit this area. It has a presence of rock art sites, but the destination is not just limited to that. So there is a lot of different sites that you can go and visit aside from the medieval structure itself. There's the Italian chapel of St. Francis Assisi, which was built by Second World War internees, really beautiful chapel, but so much history. There's Lake Mutarikwi Recreational Park, which has white rhino and leopard. And then there's the Pokoteke Gorge, which is an incredible rock face with outstanding diversity of birds, including the peregrine falcons and the African harrier hawks. So really a lot of different things that you can incorporate whilst guests are visiting the Great Zimbabwe structure. That is it from me today. I have rushed through that and I do apologize, but there's a lot to cover, but hopefully it just gives you a little bit of a teaser of the very special diversity that Zimbabwe has to offer to travelers. Thanks very much.